My Lords, I rise to speak to Amendments 203B and 203C in this grouping, which I have signed, but I'm really largely speaking on behalf of Lord Alton, who, as you've heard, has been involved in quite a serious accident where he's been very lucky in that lives were lost. It was the recent bus crash at Victoria, and I know that we would all wish him a speedy recovery. I should declare my interests. I serve as co-chair of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China. I'm a patron of Hong Kong Watch, and I've been working closely with the international legal team fighting for the release of Jimmy Lai, the imprisoned pro-democracy publisher in Hong Kong, who is a British citizen and whose politically motivated show trial has just concluded. This amendment concerns the British national overseas visa route, a scheme established not as an economic migration pathway, but as a humanitarian commitment. It's rooted in our history, in treaty obligations under the Sino-British Joint Declaration, and in the moral promise made by this country to the people of Hong Kong when we handed over sovereignty in 1997. When Britain created the BNO route, it did so in response to Beijing's breach of its international obligations. Hong Kong's freedoms, judicial independence, freedom of expression, democratic participation have been stripped away. Brave men and women who stood for liberty have been arrested, silenced, exiled, and we in Britain recognised that we had a duty to provide sanctuary and a future to those Hong Kongers who still held a form of British nationality but lacked a right of abode. Now, however, that promise is at risk. The government's recent white paper proposes doubling the standard time to settlement from 5 to 10 years, and it's not clear which visa routes will be affected. Without this amendment, the BNO route, which has become a lifeline for 200,000 Hong Kongers already here, could be fundamentally weakened by ministerial fiat without proper scrutiny by Parliament. Now, I want to underline here that the BN scheme was a substitute for accountability. To this day, we have still failed to sanction a single individual responsible for the outrages in that city, which directly affect the UK and our treaty obligations. We've been scared of seeking to hold Beijing to account, and instead we created this scheme, and it is and was, my lords, the very least we could do. But let me be plain, if we change the rules midway, we will be moving the goalposts for families who have already uprooted their lives on the basis of Britain's word. We will be telling young people who came here expecting to settle after 5 years that they must now wait a decade, and that their children may be unable to secure citizenship until their teenage years. We will be placing unbearable financial strain on families who plan their children's education around home fee status, only to find themselves burdened with international tuition fees beyond their means. And we will be leaving pro-democracy activists forced into exile without the consular protection they so desperately need when they travel. We will be stripping Hong Kongers of a firm sense of identity, many unable to renew their SAR passports and withdraw their pensions. My lords, BNOs are not entitled to welfare. They pay an NHS surcharge. Nobody has ever attempted to characterise this group as abusing the system. They have accepted the terms offered to them, which deny them the privileges associated with British citizenship for 6 years. It's wrong to dangle this carrot and whisk it away again as their home city, which the UK signed a treaty to protect, is burning. Beyond the human cost, there is the reputational cost. My lords, credibility is the coin of international politics. If Britain retreats from its commitments to Hong Kongers, the message to Beijing will be clear that we don't stand by our word. Our allies too will take note, and we cannot expect others to trust us on human rights, on security, on treaty obligations if we renege on this promise. This amendment does not create new rights. It merely preserves the existing 5-year pathway to settlement and requires that any fundamental change be made openly through primary legislation rather than slipped in by secondary rules. That's not radical, it's responsible, and it's Parliament doing its duty to those who place their trust in us. And I will add that there may be rumblings on the front bench about the legal mechanism we've chosen here. It may seem unusual to prevent the repeal of sui generis immigration rules by primary legislation, but we are assured by a former clerk to the Parliament that there is both precedent for it and that it's a good idea to prevent the use of Henry VIII's powers. I think that the government at one stage indicated that. There is nothing wrong with this modest amendment, either in its drafting or its timing. It's germane to the purposes of this bill and desperately needed to give succour to a group of newly arrived Hong Kong people who more than deserve it. My Lord, in defending the BNO route, we are not only protecting vulnerable families, we are upholding Britain's honour, and I commend the amendment to the House.